Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome in to the midweek edition of the 5-Pack right here on the Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink hanging out with you. You cannot get into your Wednesday until we talk a little bit about Tuesday night, and then we'll get you set for your Wednesday. We'll also have our fun with our daily pack break, a brand new pack to bust and to rip open today. Yesterday, we handled Topps Stadium Club, which was kind of cool to do for the first time, but the set, oh my goodness, the set. The cards we got, a bit of a letdown. As we learned yesterday, Topps Stadium Club teaming up with Kodak. And it appeared that the game plan was to take as many spring training profile photos as possible, i.e. there was no action to be found. I think today's going to be different. But we go back in time. Not 1990, not 1989, no, 1988 Score Baseball. This is the first edition of Score Baseball. Don't you love how literal they were with Score Baseball? I always look at this pack. And it's like everybody knows that the runner is trying to score, the umpire and the runner, except for the catcher, who appears to still be in his crouch catching the ball, maybe a curve ball from the hurler. He's sitting there as if a pitch is being fired. Maybe it's a steal of home plate. I don't know. But today we will get into Score Baseball 1988. This is a very special set to me that I will explain to you later. Now, yesterday, that Topps Stadium Club that had 12 cards in the pack, something that Score did that was unique back in the day. Can you see that number at the bottom? Let me straighten this out. Look at there you go. 17 player cards. I think Topps back in the day was like 15. And Score says, we'll give the people more. Now, we'll probably charge them 15 cents more, but we'll give them 2 extra cards. And as the package says, photo quality cards. So that'll be our pack rip coming up in just a few here on the 5-Pack. Want to thank our producer, Heather Klein. Great to have her on board. Great to have you on board. We do this every day where we give you 5 things that mattered from the night before, 5 things that will matter tonight, and of course, our pack rip at the end of the show. Let us begin with the 5 things that mattered from last night, and we start in a place that we previewed yesterday. If you caught yesterday's program, we said, hey, Ohtani versus Judge. That'll be fun, right? Ohtani versus Judge in the house that Ruth built. Well, lo and behold, Shohei Ohtani came to play, and Shohei Ohtani came and arrived with a storyline for us on this April night.
Cool thing to see.
Ohtani rips one toward the gap in right center. This one is deep, and this one is gone! Shohei Ohtani puts on the show in the Bronx. It's a 2-run homer in the top of the first, and it's Ohtani who strikes first in this series at Yankee Stadium.
116.7 miles per hour exit velocity.
Shohei Ohtani getting things off and rolling. Angels eventually win that game 5-2. Neither Judge nor Ohtani had a hit after that home run. But it was a big night for Ohtani with the home run, give the Angels the early lead. He also got his first stolen base of the season. The storyline he provided us, though, was one that connected Shohei Ohtani to Babe Ruth. And, of course, we always hear that connection. You know, Ohtani, in effect, is the most successful pitcher/hitter since Babe Ruth. He might end up even being more successful on both sides. I don't know. That's probably crazy talk at this moment. After all, Babe Ruth may have been the best hitter ever, and Babe Ruth was a very good pitcher. What we have with Ohtani is he's a really good hitter and a really good pitcher, and he's about 4 or 5 years into his career. So a little more ground to cover for Shohei Ohtani. But check out the storyline. Yesterday was April 18th, 2023. 100 years earlier, on April 18th, 1923, Yankee Stadium opened for the first time. Not the Yankee Stadium that Ohtani was playing in last night, but the other Yankee Stadium, the actual house that Ruth built. That opened 100 years ago yesterday. And guess who hit a home run 100 years ago yesterday in the first game ever at that Yankee Stadium? It was Babe Ruth. And then Shohei Ohtani, 100 years later, in Yankee Stadium, does it again. Now, I had to look it up with Ruth. First off, April 18th of 1923 was opening day back in 1923. We've already played like 3 weeks of baseball 100 years later. Ruth on that day had the homer, the runs scored, couple of walks, 3 RBIs. They topped Boston 4-1. Now, his next home run at Yankee Stadium in 1923 would not occur, this is amazing, until June 8th. Now, think about that. This is maybe the greatest home run hitter of all time. He opens up Yankee Stadium on April 18th with a home run. His next home run at that ballpark, his home ballpark, is not until June 8th. Now, how in the hell does that happen? I'll tell you. I looked at the game log of 1923. You know, players like to complain in 2023 about things. Oh, the road trips. Oh, the day game after a night game. Oh, the East Coast, West Coast thing. Check out Babe Ruth and his Yankee teammates in 1923, or check out anybody in baseball in 1923. Babe Ruth went a long stretch, April 18th to June 8th, without a home run, because the Yankees pretty well spent the entire month of May on the road. The Yankees had a 20-game road trip covering 22 days, a 20-game road trip that took them to Cleveland, Detroit, St. Louis, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Washington. And I might add that none of that was with first-class private air travel. Probably first-class private train travel. But it was a 22-day road trip with 20 games. Cleveland, Detroit, St. Louis, Chicago, and Philly, and Washington. Say what you will about the greatness of Shohei Ohtani, but he's never going to have to go on the road for more than 3 weeks in a row. Good. They really didn't have a union, I don't think, back then. So good thing eventually they got a union. You would never get away with that nowadays. As for Ohtani, I brought up this number yesterday. Let's give you the updated numbers. He has got 6 hits in his career at this Yankee Stadium. 4 of them have left the yard. So he's got the pop. He is batting, though, just 154 at Yankee Stadium. Meanwhile, Babe Ruth, if you were wondering what he hit at his own house, the house that he built, Babe Ruth in his career, 851 games, hit 349 at Yankee Stadium, and he slugged almost 700. That is in 850 games. He owned that ballpark. Shohei Ohtani might someday own that ballpark if he were to end up with the Yankees. But right now, it's still Babe Ruth that owns that ballpark, or at least the quote-unquote Yankee Stadium, whichever ballpark you want to call it. Moving on to item number 2 of what mattered from your Tuesday of Major League Baseball. Let's head out to San Diego, where you had one of those just weird streaks that only baseball could dream up. How about the fact that of the last 11 hits by Braves catcher Sean Murphy, all 11 of them went for extra bases.
Against the Brewers. Braves blanked them last night 2-0. Oh, Sean Murphy, kiss that baby goodbye. Second deck, 2-0 Atlanta. ...421 feet.
That ball was absolutely smoked.
That right there is a hot hitting catcher, Mr. Sean Murphy. 11 consecutive hits that all went for extra bases. Now, in the 8th inning last night, he settled for a wimpy single. So the streak is over. But Murphy got things rolling against San Diego. Easy victory for the Braves last night, 8-1 against the Friars. In that 11 hit stretch, he had 7 doubles and 4 home runs. And take a look at Murphy. I mentioned the hottest hitting catcher. There are other things going on with Sean Murphy. Number one, for his career, he was striking out 2.3 times for every walk that he has drawn. That's for his career. This year in Atlanta, we've got 13 walks to 14 Ks. This is like 1-to-1 right now for Sean Murphy. So that's huge. Additionally, middle of the order. That's important. Good lineup, middle of the order. You love it. Throw this on there too. And I talked about this, I guess it was early last week here on the 5-pack with Adley Rauschman. Rauschman had the unique feature of like playing every single day. Baltimore is using him as a catcher, a DH, and really he never gets a rest. Sean Murphy's doing the same thing. Now, this is not by choice. Travis d'Arnaud's out with a concussion. We should note d'Arnaud, at last report, really doing no baseball activities. So a return is not imminent for the other catcher with the Atlanta Braves, Travis d'Arnaud. Right now, Sean Murphy, and I looked this up today, he has played every single game for the Braves since April 6th. That is unheard of at catcher. And he's not getting a lot of DH opportunities. Only one of his last 12 games has been as a DH. So he's played 12 consecutive games. And early in the season, you get off days, rainouts, all those things. But Sean Murphy isn't getting a lot of those things. He's just playing every day. And how can you sit him? He's red hot. But these are features that at a position that a lot of us just kind of punt and say, who cares? These are features that make you so, so valuable. And when Travis d'Arnaud is back, you're not going to see Murphy rolling out there 10 straight games. You just won't. He'll be treated more like a regular catcher. But again, nothing's really happening with d'Arnaud right now. So for the time being, the Braves will keep rolling with Sean Murphy, and hopefully he'll keep rolling at the dish. Let's go to our third item that mattered from last night. Stay out west. We go just up the freeway to Los Angeles, where Clayton Kershaw had another career milestone.
Or Uncle Charlie. Strike 3, swinging. Kershaw's 0-2. Strike 3, swinging. He picks up Hayward to the tune of 3 consecutive Ks. 20 pitches, 18 strikes.
Clayton Kershaw. There's a lot of great things going on in that highlight package. That's the first inning last night. Kershaw goes on to win his 200th career game. Before we hear from Kershaw, let me point out what I love about that video. You heard the voice at the end, and that was courtesy of the Dodgers television network. Clayton Kershaw, 20 pitches, 18 strikes. Crazy. 90% of his pitches were for strikes. Those first 2 strikeouts, the classic Clayton Kershaw curveball. And then the third strikeout, fastball in the low 90s. Right at him. I know he's not epic Kershaw, but he's still damn good Kershaw. Fun to watch him last night. After securing victory number 200, he talked about the milestone with the post-game media.
That's what tonight signifies for me, is just looking back on all the different groups of guys that I've gotten to play with over the years. And, maybe it hasn't ended the way we wanted to in the postseason, but ultimately winning all those games with those groups is special. And I think this one's going to be the same. I think it's going to be really special. And I think it was really, the guys had a toast for me in the locker room, which was really cool. And people even said some stuff that made me uncomfortable, which is great. And being able to celebrate with your teammates different accomplishments is really, really special for me.
If you look over the last 2 decades and you say best pitchers in baseball, Clayton Kershaw is like 1 or 2. And I'm trying to think who truly competes. Verlander is probably close. I'd still take Kershaw over him and Scherzer, I think. He's been going a little longer, but it's close. You can make an argument. And whereas Verlander and Scherzer are still like up there when healthy, competing for size, we're not really there with Kershaw. He's 35 years old. Here's what's insane. This great pitcher, and I don't want this to come off as like a criticism of the lefty, but 200 wins? Clayton Kershaw? This says a lot about the game of baseball, that Clayton Kershaw just last night got his 200th win. You know, the number you want is 300. I mentioned he's 35 years old. Clayton Kershaw would have to go the next 7+ years, averaging 14 victories a year to get to 300. So he'd be 42. He'd have to be really good over the next 7 years, every single one of those 7, to get to 300. Now, I looked at his previous 7 years, and I threw out 2020, the COVID year, not counting that. If you look at his previous 7 years from age, 27 to 35, because of COVID, we're going back to 27, 26 to 35. He averaged 13.3. So he'd have to be better in the next 7 years to get to 300 than he has been in the previous 7 years. I don't know if that says more about baseball or how impressive it's to get to 300 victories. But to me, Kershaw is not only one of the greatest that I have ever laid eyes on, but honestly, there are stats out there that say he may be one of the greatest that any of us have ever laid eyes on. For instance, ERA plus, which takes a pitcher and normalizes for the ballparks and the era and the league. ERA plus at the top of the all-time list is Mariano Rivera. He's over 200, which, 100 is average. Rivera's over 200 for his career. Number 2 and number 3 on that list are probably two guys you've never heard of. You've got Bill Foster and Bullet Rogan. They're of the Negro Leagues. They're number 2 and number 3. Number 4 in ERA plus all time is Clayton Kershaw. His number is 157. To put that in perspective, Pedro Martinez, 154. Roger Clemens, 143. Cy Young, 138. Greg Maddux is at 132. Sandy Koufax is at 131. Both Bob Gibson and Tom Seaver, 127. Clayton Kershaw's at 157. Now, his ERA plus can go down, so we'll see where he ends up. But right now, he's number 4 all time in big league history. And again, the only guys ahead of him are the best closer of all time and then 2 guys from the Negro Leagues. That's it. That's your list ahead of Clayton Kershaw. So greatness on display last night. Congrats on victory number 200. I hope we can say there's a 300th to come. But right now, maybe we just hope for 250 with Clayton Kershaw, a certain Hall of Famer. Moving to item number 4, we go to Cincinnati, where last night the Tampa Bay Rays picked up an easy victory over the Reds, 10-0 the final. The Rays pitching staff, oh man, everybody's talking about the hitting, and rightfully so. They're clubbing the baseball. They got double-digit runs again last night. But the news with the Rays is that they've lost a pitcher while maybe gaining another pitcher. If you saw the news yesterday, Jeffrey Springs is done for the season. Tommy John surgery for Jeffrey Springs. So they lose him out of the rotation. He's done. Of course, they don't have Tyler Glasnow. We're hoping that he comes back in the next few weeks for the Rays. What they do have is a guy who was on the hill last night against Cincinnati. Rookie Taj Bradley looking pretty sharp against the Reds.
And a cut and a miss right there.
Right on cue. I mean, it really, he has. Didn't throw it that much in the start against the Red Sox, but he has brought it out here tonight. There's the grip. There's the finish. My goodness, that's a nice pitch.
And that's going to be it for Taj Bradley. He works 5 1/3. He gets the strikeout here to open the bottom of the 6th inning. And what a great performance for Taj Bradley and the Rays. And his folks are here applauding as he departs.
Hard to get a seat there in Cincinnati for the folks. Valley Sports with the call and video there. Kudos to them. Taj Bradley, 9 strikeouts in 5 1/3. Here's the thing with Bradley. He was called up last week, made his first start. Last night was start number 2. The assumption was it's maybe only 2 starts and then he's back in the minors because Zach Eflin is going to be back. Well, we don't know 2 starts later if Zach Eflin's going to be back. And like I said, Jeffrey Springs is out. You look at Tampa Bay right now, they have 3 starters. They have Drew Rasmussen as one of them. They have Shane McClanahan. Those guys are locked and loaded. Bradley would be the 3rd. The 4th might be Josh Fleming, who's more like an opener. Glasnow on the IL, Eflin on the IL, Springs done for the season. Taj Bradley may be sticking around, and this is how it works in baseball. You think, oh, he's going to be up for 1 start or 2 starts. Even the team tells us that. But what happens? Crap happens. Baseball happens. Injuries happen. And all of a sudden you start to think, well, maybe Taj Bradley sticks in this rotation. Now, if you know anything about Tampa Bay, they like to screw with us. They like to jerk guys around, bring them up, send them down, use them as openers, whatever it is. They don't want to set a closer, all that stuff. With Taj Bradley, a lot of times with rookies, we say, well, man, is he going to get the innings? It's been said elsewhere. It's worth repeating. Taj Bradley threw 133 innings last year in the minors. He does have a shot at 150 this year. Most of these guys come up and like they've maxed out at 90 innings. And you're like, are they really going to be set loose for 125? And most of the time, the answer is no. But with Bradley, A, it's not a big jump from 133 to 150. And B, right now the Rays have the need with Taj Bradley. So you may be getting more than you thought with Bradley after the good effort last night. I will point out the upcoming schedule, and this is important. Whether you have Bradley or not, pay attention to what the Rays do with their rotation. And do they use openers or guys activated off the IL? Because Taj Bradley, based off like one little decision, his upcoming games totally change. What I mean by that is I was looking at the schedule. It's going to have Houston more than likely next if he stays in the rotation. Then there's maybe a game against the White Sox. Now, if they start bringing in openers or Eflin comes back or Glasnow comes back, things change. And what I mean by that is you could be facing either Pittsburgh and Baltimore, or you could be facing the Yankees back-to-back with the Mets to follow. That's based off of like who returns, what the game plan is. And I know I'm kind of forecasting 2-3 weeks out for Taj Bailey, but these are things that make a big difference. Would you rather face Pittsburgh and Baltimore, who are fine teams, but not frightening teams? Or would you rather face 2 games against the Yankees and 1 against the Mets? Makes a big difference with how you, the fantasy owner, would use Taj Bradley. Finally, we go to our 5th item that matters. It is not from the world of baseball. It is from the world of hockey. I previewed this yesterday. I was talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I brought up the historic drought of not winning the Cup. And they've had awful first-round luck of late. They've had good teams. They've spent money. They've got a superstar in Austin Matthews. They still can't get past the first round. I said, hey, let the run begin tonight. Well, last night the run began, but it absolutely drove into the ditch. They got blasted at home in Game 1 by Tampa.
Up there as well. Giordano has it rolled to Zach Aston Reese, and they can't clear it. Turned back by Corey Perry. Perry lugs the puck around the net. Still with it. Perry shoots. Rebound. They score. The Lightning open the suit. Here's Killorn. Killorn jumps in there. Alex Killorn trying to cut into the middle. And Ryan O'Reilly took the puck away from him. Perbix. In for Cirelli. Here's Hagel. His shot up on Samsonov. Rebound is there. Hagel with a shot. They score again.
In point side of the net. The backhand stop. Warren up with it. Leaf fans anticipating a pulse. Scores. Kucherov. A blast with 2.6 to go. After Killorn had taken down a Leaf and fans were looking for a penalty.
I'll let you know the booze came very shortly after that. 3 goals in the first period for Tampa. They win 7-2. Now, for a lot of teams, you write it off. Bad start. Let's focus on Game 2, not Toronto. The fans know the history here, and it's ugly. It's brutal. And last night was brutal. Think about when those goals happened. The first goal comes less than 2 minutes into the game. You start to settle in. You think, okay, we're fine. It's 1-0. And then a second goal happens 8 minutes into the game. And then that third goal, that last one, it came with like 5 seconds left in the first period. Tampa embarrassed the Maple Leafs in game 1. Now, 2 things. Tampa had a ton of power play time. 8 power plays, they scored 4 times. They had 13 shots on those 8 power plays. And Ilya Samsonov, we brought him up yesterday right here on the 5-pack. His record after last night is now 1-7 in the postseason. He was yanked out of the crease after allowing 6 goals on 29 shots last night. I figure he's going to be out there for game 2. If he's not out there, they're turning to like a rookie who's played like 3 games. So they're stuck with Samsonov in effect. But the pressure's on. Pressure is on for Toronto. Game 2 of that series is coming up tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern. I think ESPN will have it for you. Rough start. Lightning striking not once, not twice, but 7 times last night against Toronto. Okay, those are the 5 things that mattered from last night. When we return, 5 things that will matter for tonight. Before any of that, let's send you off to the Tour Junkies, talking a little golf here on the Better Sports Network.
I would say that if we're talking a big 3, we may have to slide Rory out and start to move Jordan in there if he wins a major this year. And actually probably could go ahead and do that right now. And I'm a big Jordan fan and I'm a huge Rory fan also. But Jordan's getting to that. He's getting that swagger back. That little GIF, little video where that football player's, I got that swagger back. I got that swagger back. That's what I feel like Jordan's doing.
Okay,
We're already off the rails here.
I don't know.
I wanted to do this for the Zurich Classic.
I don't know if I have the GIFs have audio. I've never heard the audio version of that.
Yeah, there's an audio version of it.
Okay.
We might have to. Well, yeah, there's an audio version of the video.
I mean, Pat, it's a bold claim, and I think I agree with you on the first part that you slide Rory out. I don't think he's in the big 3. I think there's really a big 2.
Well, I agree. Yeah, I would say you're right.
And
but
then
Jordan's getting
everybody else. But I mean, ahead of Jordan right now in the world golf ranking is Rory at 3, Cantlay at 4. Going to talk a lot about him today too. Xander Schauffele at 5, Cam Smith at 6, and Max Homa at 7, with Matthew Fitzpatrick at 8. So I mean,
Welcome back to the 5-pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome me back in. It is the 5-pack on a Wednesday. Caught the Tour Junkies there during the quick timeout. They will be coming up again later today right here on BSN starting at 2 o'clock. Right after I sign off here, quick outs fantasy football headed your way at 1 o'clock. And want to remind you later tonight, Rick Kamla, Lisa Ann, they're going to get rolling with Better Sports Live 7 p.m. for the startup there. And I know Rick and Lisa will be keeping all eyes on the NBA playoffs. We've got some eyes on the NBA playoffs as well. We'll get to that and the 5 things that will matter for tonight. But first, we begin in the Motor City. Break up the Detroit Tigers? I don't know. Yesterday, they had a doubleheader. It was a doubleheader sweep, and the Tigers have now won 5 in a row.
Here's pitch number 9. Fly ball right field. Gonzalez tracking it. Are you kidding me? He's done it! He walks it off! Kerry Carpenter sends the Tigers fans home happy, burning Karinchak in a 9-pitch battle.
He's following it up today with an outstanding performance.
Green the other way. Brennan drifting back, looking up, and it is gone! Riley Green leads off the Tigers 6 with a solo bomb.
Just a guess, but it appeared pretty cold in Detroit yesterday for that double. That double hitter, by the way, took 4 hours and 14 minutes combined. I'm guessing it was cold. Everybody wanted to get off that field. 2 more wins for the Tigers. They have now won 5 in a row. Tonight, they go for 6 in a row. Actually, not tonight. Today, they go for 6 in a row, taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Here's the thing. Let's not get carried away with Detroit. I wanted to spotlight them because God knows if I'll ever have another chance to spotlight the Tigers this year. But I will note a couple of things. Last year, they actually had 2 winning streaks of at least 6 games. So this is not unprecedented, even for this version of the Tigers. Additionally, they win yesterday. Kerry Carpenter, or Snake Eyes, as he appeared to be in that highlight courtesy of Bally Sports. Snake Eyes with the home run won that first game 4-3. Then Riley Green has the solo home run in the second game. They win that one 1-0. This speaks to the fact that Detroit ain't getting any offense. I mean, I was looking at the OPSs. The hitting is still bad for Detroit. Here are some of the everyday hitters. All of these guys have played at least 10 games for Detroit this year. Here are their OPSs. 545, 510, 500, 668, 584, 544, 635, 563. That is 8 players who have all played at least 10 games. You know, they're almost regulars. 8 guys who have brutal OPSs. Like, you need to be at 700, and none of those 8 are over 685. So they've got it going today. We'll see if they get their 6 in a row. It'll be Cal Quantrill taking on Spencer Turnbull. They also don't have much pitching in Detroit. But hey, we had an opportunity to celebrate the Motor City Cats, so why not do it here on the 5-pack? Let's go to our second thing that will matter for this evening. And we'll just call this a gift to the Oakland A's faithful. They are going to call up a hotshot prospect, Mason Miller. Now, I think we're going to flash up a graphic. Yeah, there it is. This is Mason Miller's last start, which I think was either Friday or Saturday in Las Vegas. Check that out. I'm not going to sit here and read you the numbers. I trust that my audience can read. But I want you to look at all those numbers. That's insane. 63 pitches and 23 of them were over 100. Who is Mason Miller? This is who Mason Miller is. Again, he's going to make a start today against the Chicago Cubs. That game will start at 3:35 in the Coliseum. He throws, as you might have guessed, very hard. In fact, he has 3 pitches and all of them are hard. There is no changeup here. There is no curveball here. It's like 4-seamer, slider, and cutter. In fact, if you look at the velocities on those pitches, this Mason Miller guy is like 101 to 86. That's all he throws is hard. He's 24 years old. He doesn't have a whole lot of minor league experience. He kind of bounced around in college. He has had a slew of injuries, okay? Let's understand that. We kind of joked about Jake DeGrom yesterday on the show. By the way, DeGrom says he's going to make his next start. We'll see. But Mason Miller's had all sorts of injuries, as you might expect when you throw 101. He's 24 years old. He's not like some 20-year-old pitching prospect. He's kind of gone through the ups and downs of being a pitcher and fighting through injuries and has finally found his way to the major leagues. It's exciting. It's going to be fun today. But really, this is just the Oakland A's saying, oh, he's healthy now. Let's use him. Let's use him while we can, okay? Smoke him while you got him. With Miller, it will be fun to watch. You know, it will be exciting. But I wonder if anybody will notice actually in Oakland, because I say, you can see below me, a gift to, what is that number, 10,909 of you. What I mean by that is the average attendance for the Oakland A's at home this year. 10,900, the average. That includes opening day, which I think was like over 30,000. I don't know if anybody shows up today. Maybe they will for this guy. He's kind of a freak. Of course, the freak tag is not as momentous as it used to be in baseball, because now we have like Hunter Green. You know, we have Jordan Hicks. We have Johan Duran. Like, all these guys throw 100. So Mason Miller is just the next guy to do it. But like I said, maybe watch him while you can, because I don't know how much longer you get to watch it. But he's going to make the debut for Oakland, taking on the Cubs again. 3:30 is that start today. Item number 3. LA Dodgers, they've got the rubber game of a 3-game set coming up today. Max Scherzer going up against Noah Syndergaard, Mets and Dodgers. Mets won the first game last night. The Dodgers won the second game. Now, in game 2 of that set, the victory last night, the one where Kershaw got his 200th victory, there was no Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts was on paternity leave. We don't know for certain just yet because this game is still about 2.5, 3 hours away. There is a chance that Betts is reinserted for the LA Dodgers and is available for this game against Max Scherzer. There is also a chance that we could see Mookie Betts doing some of this later today against the Mets. Have you ever had a more exciting highlight here on the 5-pack? Why did we air that? I'll tell you why we aired it. That's Mookie Betts taking grounders at shortstop. That was from over the weekend. And we're told that he's been doing that in the pregame for the last week or two. The Dodgers have issues at shortstop, okay? They got issues. Chris Taylor is dealing with a oblique injury. Miguel Rojas isn't hitting. They lost Gavin Lux for the season. They got issues. Mookie Betts at shortstop. If you're wondering, has he ever played? He's never played there, at least not in the big leagues. I think maybe about 8-9 years ago in the minor leagues, he played a dozen games at shortstop, but he's never done it at the majors. Now we've got Betts as an outfielder, right fielder. We've got Betts as a second baseman. Now we maybe get Betts as a shortstop? Can it be? Dave Roberts said yesterday, we're serious about it. We may use him at shortstop. So we'll see today. Dodgers taking on the Mets. A, is Betts reinstated from the paternity leave list? And B, where's he playing? We're almost certain he's going to lead off, but where's he playing? Is it right field, second base, or shortstop? And no other real superstar does this. Yes, Ohtani pitches and DHs. But jumping around like this, outfield, second, and short, we've talked about this a lot, man. You can use that guy everywhere in fantasy baseball. Now, he'll have to play a few games at short. Nothing is imminent. He's got to play like 10 games for most leagues. But something to follow. Is going to be a shortstop for that game today. 3:10 for the first pitch between Scherzer and Syndergaard. Let's go to our fourth thing that will matter, and we go to the world of the NBA. We've got studs who are injured. We've got the question mark. Will these studs be playing? That is a big question mark. Let's start with our first stud. The question is, Ja Morant, is he going to be back for the Grizzlies tonight? Here's the injury from a few days back.
Plays catch with Jackson, 5 on the 24. Vanderbilt trying to stay with him. Morant inside. Offensive foul. Anthony Davis steps in and draws the charge. Everything defensively. And that's 3 on Morant. Morant's shaken up.
Grabbing that right hand.
Oh, he's hurting. He's running back to the locker room. Wow. What a turn of events here.
Yeah, when you're that high and you brace it, that is nasty.
Ouch. Ouch. Morant did not return in that game. Injured wrist. Lakers win. Now, as of now, for tonight's game, Memphis and LA, game's in Memphis, he's listed as a game time decision. We'll see. After the game, he was pretty distraught, and that Grizzlies locker room was distraught. I will say, the Grizzlies this year had a bit of experience playing without Durant, and they did just fine. I will make a call here, a wager, if you will. Even without Durant, take the Grizzlies on the money line. Take them. They may end up being an underdog. I'd take them against the Lakers. They were like, I think the record was like 20-6 or something without Ja Morant this year. They can win. So he's a game time decision. Kind of think he's doubtful. A guy who I know is doubtful because the team even says he's doubtful is Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak whose team also was upset in game 1. They fell to Miami. He is listed as doubtful for game 2 against the Heat. Here is his injury from Sunday.
Antetokounmpo takes it right down and drives into Love. And Giannis is hurt. And Giannis,
I think he's holding that back.
He is. His injuries this year have been mainly knee. Had a hand injury later in the season.
Well, we saw in that earlier game the way that John Morant went down and had to be ran to the locker room with that hand injury, that right hand injury, and now Giannis.
Two absolute superstars in the playoffs, and they're hurting. They're limping. And I would bet with Giannis, it's a lower back. With Morant, again, it's the wrist. Those injuries ain't getting better over the next 6 weeks. If the Grizzlies are going to be playing 6 weeks from now, my bet is Ja Morant's wrist is still a problem. If the Bucks are playing 6 weeks from now, Giannis's back's still going to be a problem. Tonight, who knows? Giannis is doubtful. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we get an upgrade to questionable. They did the MRI scans and all of that, and there was no structural damage. But these guys and these teams are in tough spots. They lost the first game. Those games were at home. Now, Memphis is a 2 seed out west. The Bucks are a 1 seed out east. We'll see. Tonight, tip-offs. LA and Memphis, 7:30 TNT. Miami, Milwaukee, 9 o'clock on NBA television. And again, credit to TNT for the video of both those injuries from Sunday. Finally, our fifth thing that will matter. Did somebody say more hockey? Yeah, let's get more hockey. Tonight in Edmonton, it's game 2 of the Oilers and the Kings. Now, game 1 was a huge upset comeback victory by the LA Kings. Now, that happens in the NBA, happens in the NHL, happens in every postseason. It's just one game, right? Well, what was notable about that game is that the LA Kings totally silenced the super stud, Connor McDavid. Todd McClellan, head coach of the Kings, talked about slowing down not only McDavid, but even Leon Draisaitl and the rest of the high-flying Oilers in game number 1.
One of their superstars had 2 goals tonight, so and the other drew 2 penalties to make it 5-on-3. So they had their mark on the game too, and you're not going to stop them every night. The fact that we played hard, we got production from different areas, different situations, I think was important. But again, maybe the lesson we learned last year that we weren't prepared for is the level of plays going up immensely in game 2.
Game 2 is tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern. Oilers need a victory. You can catch it on ESPN. Kudos to NHL.com for the video there. But back to McDavid. No points. He was a -2 on 5 shots in that game. If you didn't follow hockey this year, Connor McDavid was unstoppable. 82 games, in only 7 of those 82 did he go pointless. Since the turn of the calendar, January 1st, Connor McDavid has had 2 games without a point. 2! Crazy. Now, last season, these same 2 teams, Oilers and Kings, met in the postseason. In game 4 of that series, the Oilers and Connor McDavid, they lost. And McDavid had 0 points. So, hey, the Kings have done this before. In the other 6 games of that 7-game series last year, Oilers versus Kings, Connor McDavid had 3 goals and 9 assists. So, hey, great job in game 1, Todd McClellan and the LA Kings. Don't know if it means much against Connor McDavid. He, of the nearly 160 points this season in the NHL. 0 on Monday. We'll see if he gets rolling again tonight. Again, it's a late one, 10 o'clock Eastern tonight for the Oilers and the Kings. Okay, we'll take our final timeout here. I think we got Moose and Corey talking a bit about Draymond Green. When we return, we will be talking about this. 88 Score Baseball. We'll be ripping this pack open next on the Better Sports Network.
If somebody that does not have a history did what Draymond Green did, there would be no suspension?
I mean, listen, if that's the way they're going about it,
Well, then, but
aren't
aren't I as a league and association, aren't I looking at each and every act as an individual kind of occurrence? Am I really going to look at this as a compilation of multiple different things over the course of his career? You're really going to look back to him, kicking LeBron James and all the other stuff that Draymond Green has done over the course of his career and say, well, it's built up to this moment. Don't I just look at that act? Because your argument, Corey, is pure, right? Your argument is that I think he should have been suspended based on what he did to Sabonis, based on the action that we saw in Game 2. But if you read the statement from the NBA, it's not just based on that act. It's based on what he's done his entire career. That, to me, I don't know if that really holds any water.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
I want to remind you to head over to bettersports.com, get signed up for our daily newsletter. I was talking about Connor McDavid looking for some points tonight. Each and every day we have a daily prop bet or wager that we recommend. McDavid is the subject of that wager today. So you can get signed up at bettersports.com. You'll have a new newsletter each and every day delivered to you courtesy of BSN. Okay, we welcome you back to the 5-Pack. Kyle Elfrink with you for another 10 minutes or so, giving us plenty of time to enjoy our pack rip. 1988 Score Baseball. First year of Score Baseball. Now, we've talked a lot about Upper Deck in shows previous and what they did to kind of change the game. To an extent, Score did this as well. They brought baseball cards out of the 1970s, I would argue. I really would. Topps had gotten lazy. Fleer, Dunras, all these guys. Score came in and they said, not only are we going to give you some color pop, but we're actually going to give you action photos. That's what we're going to do. They also, as the pack indicates, will give you trivia cards. How about that? But I remember, I said earlier, these cards are pretty special to me. I remember when Score came out, I was lucky enough as a child, me and my two brothers. My dad would be we bought baseball cards like crazy. We still have them to this day. Factory sets, wax boxes, all this stuff. We enjoyed the era of overproduction. We were like a lot of American families back then. We were willing to gobble up the overproduced cards. And we'd always get a set every year that we could like play with, that we could leaf through, have fun with. We had a little dice baseball game that we played. And it was usually always Topps. I know 86 was maybe the first year. We did that with 86, 87, and 88. And then I remember Score came out. I was like, ooh, maybe we should do this with Score. And we actually got a second set that we were allowed to play with, and it was Score. And it was fun. It was exciting. But the photos were better. Now, I kind of mocked, what was it? Yesterday we were doing Topps Stadium Club. That was the 1991 Topps Stadium Club. And the photos were horrendous. It was a bunch of guys standing around at spring training. These scorecards, and I say this at the risk of maybe embarrassing myself, but these scorecards won't be that way. Like here, if you missed yesterday, here were the cards, like all of them. Like seriously. Topps said, yeah, we're going to like create a great set and we're going to get a bunch of guys standing around at, Point Verde, Florida. Like, who cares? Okay. These scorecards, I think we're going to get like actual Major League game action. So let's tear into this puppy. Again, we got 17 cards located in this guy. 17 cards. Let's start. I always remember this with Score. Certainly in the early years. They would give you trivia. Now, I don't know how this shows up on the camera, but you would get one of these. I don't even know what they call these. They're not holograms, obviously, but see how they change depending on the angle? Great moments in baseball. Do you remember Anaheim Stadium, August 4th, 1985? What the heck happened? Rod Carew gets his 3,000th hit. Now, I will say this. Baseball cards nowadays, nobody cares about the pack. Nobody cares about the photos, the color. Nobody cares. All they care about is inserts. Okay, I get it. I'm an old fogey here sitting on my porch. But I love that back in the day, baseball cards said, you know what? We're going to make nice cards. We're going to make it exciting. we're also going to educate our audience. We're going to educate young kids who are into the game of baseball. For instance, we'll tell them about Rod Carew, and maybe they'll become interested in Rod Carew. Nowadays, nobody cares. Like, I've seen kids open a pack, and it's like a 6-card pack, and they just go and then throw it to the side. They literally just want, like, inserts, special versions. And if they don't get it, they're done with it. They just move on. Not today. That's not what we do on the pack rip. One of the reasons we celebrate old cards like 88 score is because we like to enjoy going through the pack, right? Okay, color action. We got color in action, I can tell. By the way, cards in this set that are worth something. Tom Glavine, rookie. Craig Biggio, rookie. And then for some reason, Don Mattingly's card's worth a decent amount of money. Let's get to the cards, shall we? We start with Bert B. Home Blyleven. Apologies to Chris Berman for steering one of your best nicknames. Wow. Is that actually taking place in a major league game? It is. Bert Blyleven, who, believe me when I tell you this, was actually one of the better pitchers of the 80s. He really was. Not too far behind a guy like Jack Morris. Bert Blyleven. 660 cards in this score set. And you see the purple border? Got a lot of different colors coming your way. It's going to be like a psychedelic pack rip. Rob Deere. Oh, man. Rob Deere was the original Joey Gallo. Rob Deere could club. Rob Deere also struck out. And back in the 80s, when you struck out as much as Rob Deere, it was kind of embarrassing. They don't list strikeouts here. I'll tell you what, the back of this card, you got the stats, you got a photo, you got all the measurables there, and you have like Moby Dick paragraphs written below the player. Let's see what Bert Blyleven doesn't get as much because look how long his career is. So he only gets a few lines. But Rob Deere, he was still early in his career, and he's getting like pages. Oh, we got our first superstar. I'm loving this set. I'm 3 cards in, and this 1988 score set blows away Topps Stadium Club. You heard of this guy, right? The Rocket. Roger Clemens. The Rocket. He also gets a pretty big write-up. Clemens, I know nowadays it's nothing but steroids, but man, oh man. Big-time numbers. 24-4 in 86. Followed it up by going 20-9 in 87. Would you like to guess how many innings the Rocket threw in 1987? If you guessed 281 2/3, you'd be right. Okay, we've gone nothing but purple people eaters thus far. You want a different color? Let's give you a different color. Blue. Milt Thompson. Milt Thompson, fun guy. He ended up in St. Louis later in his career. Never could really stick as one of your top 3 outfielders, but was always a very good 4th outfielder, pinch runner, all that stuff. I have nothing to tell you about this guy, Brian Fisher. Like literally nothing. I will tell you, though, that the Pirates need to go back to that emblem. Can we get back to that? Brian Fisher. Just a nobody. Card number 130 of 660. Was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. Probably one of the first baseball players to maybe come out of Honolulu. So maybe Brian Fisher should be celebrated for that. Here was a long, gangly guy who somehow would play first base and right field. I never knew why. Mike Marshall. And Mike kind of looked like just a goober, Mike Marshall. And he was a tall, kind of thick guy, 6'5", which back in the day, 6'5" was a big dude. Had some good home run seasons, 28 in 1985, fell to 19 and then 16. As it says here on the card, when Mike is healthy and on a streak, there is no more aggressive power hitter in the game. How about that? Guess he wasn't healthy enough most of the time. Current manager, is it right? Current manager? I think it is. Davey Martinez, Washington Nationals. Kind of a lifelong Chicago Cub. Davey Martinez, of course, winning a World Series with the Washington Nationals. There he is, a young Dave Martinez. Yeah, now he goes by Davey. Back in the day, he was Davey, or Dave, I should say. Not Phil Niekro, but Joe Niekro. And Joe, of course, Emery board Joe Niekro. got caught cheating. And this might have been the same year, maybe in 87, when they came to the mound to say, hey, you doing something fishy with the baseball? And you'll have to look this up if you've never seen this on YouTube. And said, no, I'm not doing a thing. He reached in his pocket and he tried to flick the emery board out when they weren't looking. And one of the umps said, oh, wait a second. What is that? What is that, Joe Negro? Caught cheating on the hill. See, it's not just a 21st century thing. They were cheating back in the day. Dave Mead, or Dave Meads, let's do it plural. That's a nobody. When you have 660 cards, you occasionally get nobodies. We now move from purple to blue to red to green. Ricky Horton. He was a loogie, a left-handed only guy who would come out of the bullpen to face lefties. Ricky Horton, now a part of the St. Louis Cardinals radio broadcast. So you can catch him each and every night. Little man, Mike Gallego. If it wasn't Mark Lemke, it was Mike Gallego, who was a part of those very good Oakland A's teams. He was never, of course, held in the esteem of a McGuire, a Canseco, a Henderson, even a Walt Weiss. But Mike Gallego was pretty important there at second base. Our second Pirates pitcher, who I can't really tell you anything about, Mike Dunn. Sorry, Pirate pitchers. Maybe you should have just gotten better. We now move into the yellow coloring of score. I don't know. Yellow is probably I don't know. Some people may like the yellow here. Rick Cerrone, the catcher. Played a lot of baseball. Yankees, Blue Jays, Indians. Made it over to the Brewers for just a bit. Rick Cerrone was your proverbial backup catcher. Lasted a long time in the major leagues. Man, they gave every reliever a card, I guess. Tom Hume of the Philadelphia Phillies. Check out, my goodness, Tom Hume had to be related to Harry Carey. Look at that. And dare I say, this photo, let me take a closer look. This photo is taken at Wrigley. I wonder if Tom Hume was joshing with the cameraman. Harry Carey was hanging around and Tom Hume would say, hey, Harry, let me use your goggles. Got to take a photo. I'm serious. Tom Hume. Those are Harry Carey glasses. Taken at Wrigley Field. Speaking of Wrigley, Ed Lynch. Ed Lynch went on to be a front office executive. Semi-successful. He had a couple of good years. Might even still be in baseball front offices. Here's a backup catcher, Andy Allison of the Cleveland Indians. Looks like Andy had a rough night before this photo was taken. His hair's all jostled around, sweaty. Back in the day, guys would throw on caps and they let their hair hang. Finally, we will finish with a man who racked up a load of saves. He had not busted out as a closer yet, but Doug Jones, who for about a 2 or 3 year span with the Indians, became a guy who was racking up 30, 40 saves. Like big time stuff, Doug Jones. At this point, he'd really done nothing. I mean, this guy, check out the back of his baseball card. Let me see if I can get the Newark, Burlington, Stockton, Vancouver, El Paso, Vancouver, El Paso, Waterbury, Maine, Buffalo. That guy's a minor league lifer, Doug Jones. And like I said, eventually he showed up, started racking up saves for the Indians, probably early 90s, I think. About 30 plus saves. Love this set. The Rainbow Score 88. Good stuff here. Great stuff from our producer, Heather Klein. Hope you enjoyed today's version of the 5-pack. We'll do it again on Thursday at 12 Eastern, right here on the Better Sports Network.